Welcome to the Read-aloud for Tuesday, March 31st. We're starting November, so make sure you have your question sheet for November Part 1. You have 6 questions today. Why did Holling's father wrap the flowers in burlap? Why was Holling amazed that Mrs. Baker let him read The Tempest? What did Holling do every night? Why did Holling think Mr. Guareschi was brave? What does Holling like about the line? What is the right answer in Mr. Petrelli's class? November dripped into Long Island, as it did every year. The days turned gray and damp, and a hovering mist licked everything. The perfect white cement sidewalk in front of the perfect house was always wet. The azaleas lost the remnants of their pink and white flowers, and then many of their leaves, and since they were half naked and embarrassed, my father wrapped them in tight burlap. So that's number 1, which also got wet. On the first Sunday, I cut the lawn for the last time, and then my father cut the lawn again to get it right, since it was going to look this way until spring, he said, and it had better look good. The next Saturday, we climbed up to the roof and cleaned out the gutters, since they were overflowing now every time it rained, and the dirty water was staining the corners of the perfect house, which made my father really mad. But not as mad as the stain on the ceiling of the perfect living room. No one knew how long water had been dripping down onto it, because nobody ever went in there. So by the time my mother discovered it while vacuuming, the stain was as wide as a garbage can lid, and dark with mold. That night, when my father reached up to feel it, a handful of plaster came down on his face, and some of the moldy stuff got into his mouth. It was a very quiet supper. But that's November. It's the kind of month where you're grateful for every single glimpse of the sun, or any sign of blue sky above the clouds, because you're not sure they're there anymore. And if you can't have sun or blue sky, then you wish it would snow and cover all the gray world with sparkling white, so bright that your eye can't take it in. But it doesn't snow on Long Island in November. It rains, and rains, and rains. Which is how I think Mrs. Baker got the idea of assigning me The Tempest. But her nefarious plot to bore me to death failed again, because The Tempest was even better than The Merchant of Venice. In fact, it almost beat out Treasure Island, which is saying something. It was surprising how much good stuff there was. A storm, attempted murders, witches, wizards, invisible spirits, revolutions, characters drinking until they're dead drunk, an angry monster named Caliban. Can you believe it? I was amazed that Mrs. Baker was letting me read this, because it must have been censored all over. So that's number 2. I figured that she hadn't read it herself, otherwise she would never have let me at it. Caliban, the monster in the play, not the escaped rat, he knew cuss words. I mean, he really knew cuss words. What Mr. Vendlary said when standing on Danny Hupfer's desk didn't even come close. Even Doug Switek's brother couldn't cuss like that, and he could cuss the yellow off the school bus. So I decided to learn them all by heart, even if I didn't know exactly what they meant. I didn't know what most of Doug Switek's brother's curses meant either, and it didn't make all that much difference to me. It's all in the delivery anyway, so I practiced in my bedroom, thinking of how much I wanted to curse at my sister. A southwest blow on ye and blistered you all over. I know it doesn't sound like much, but if you say it slow and menacing, especially when you get to blister, it'll do. Keep your eyes half closed and it'll really do. For the rest of the Caliban curses, it's a lot better to say them out loud, fast, like the red plague rid you, and toads, beetles, bats light on you, and as wicked do as ere my mother brushed with raven's feather from unwholesome den drop on you. I'm not exactly sure what the last one means, but if you really hit the last 3 words hard, it will do its stuff. I told you Mrs. Baker would have let me read this if she'd read it herself. So every night after supper, I practiced the curses in front of the mirror. And that's number 3. I practiced without my shirt because I could look more menacing that way. I decided to perfect the toads, beetles, bats one first, since that was the one I understood the best, and because when I said it, a little bit of spit came out with the beetles. By the second Tuesday night, I had gotten it about down and could say toads with a blood-curdling croak when my mother knocked on my bedroom door. "Holling," she said, "are you all right?" "I'm fine," I called. "It sounds like you're talking to someone." "I'm practicing for a speech," I said, which was sort of true. "Oh," she said. "Oh, then I'll leave you to finish." I worked on the red plague for a bit, because that one is all in the timing. Then my father knocked on the door. There must have been a commercial on. "I can hear you all the way down in the den. What are you doing?" "Practicing Shakespeare," I said. "What do you need Shakespeare for?" "For Mrs. Baker." "For Mrs. Baker?" "Yep." "Well then, get it right," he said, and walked away. I went back to the toads, beetles, bats, until my sister knocked on the door. "Holling?" "Yeah?" "Shut up." "A southwest blow on ye and blister you all over," I said. She threw open the door. "What did you say to me?" In the face of a 16-year-old sister who's about to drop something on you from heaven, even Shakespeare fails. "Nothing," I said. "Keep it that way," she said. "And put on your shirt, you weirdo." She slammed the door shut. I decided I was done with practicing for the night. The rest of this will continue in the second video.